Hi, my name is Deb Weiss-Gelmi, and today we are going to do a couple poses for relieving low back pain. So it's specifically intended for people who actually have a good amount of pain in their low back, and these poses will help to release and provide relief for that pain that's happening. So you'll need props today. You'll need 3 to 5 blankets, depending upon their size. You can also use bath towels or beach towels. If you're using towels, you'll need more of them. You'll also need a couch cushion, or I use a bolster that's shaped like this, but many of us have a couch cushion. Otherwise, finding something of similar size. Our first pose is prone shavasana. Prone meaning we're on the front part of our body, and shavasana is our relaxation pose. So we'll take a blanket or 2 and roll them. And if you're taking 2, then roll them together, or a couple towels, or 3. So it's about this size roll. And that will go under our ankles at one end of the mat. And then we'll need a blanket or 2 for the head side support. So having one up here to support our head, and then having the others nearby in case you need them. So the idea of this first pose is lying on our front body and relaxing our back body and spreading from the midline of the body out. So starting with our ankles on the roll, we will be taking our outer ankles toward the blanket. And then as we go forward, our outer knees toward the floor. And then lengthening the rib cage up off the pelvis, and then supporting the head on the blankets. So rolling to the outer ankles, rolling to the outer knees, and spreading the back thighs from the inside out. So those back hamstrings, right where your buttocks meets your back hamstring, going out, spreading. And then spreading, as you begin to relax, you might be able to spread that low back away from the spine. And then lengthen the ribs up off the pelvis. Grab the opposite elbow up above your head. Now, if you don't have enough space between your face and the floor, then this is where you could add some more support. So beginning again at the feet, roll the feet to the outer ankle. And then sometimes it's helpful to lift the thigh up a little bit and roll those back thighs away from each other and set them back down. Oftentimes doing that one leg at a time, going to that outer knee. Another way to think of it is the front thighs coming toward each other. So if that is a better way for you to think of it, when you lift up a thigh, you can roll the front thigh toward the midline, and then the other thigh, lifting it up, taking that front thigh toward the midline, and then spreading the back thighs away from each other. And then finding that low back space that keeps tensing up on us, we just want to try to let go. So once you get the legs in place, then let go. Don't keep holding the muscles of the legs, but let them go. And then your low back has likely been tensing for quite some time, trying to protect itself. So right now, as your body understands that you are in a safe space in this position, then you can start to let go of those low back muscles from the spine spreading outward. Thinking of each muscle, or the muscles on each side of the spine, each letting go and spreading out toward the side of the body. And then finding the space around your tailbone and spreading those muscles around the tailbone toward the side of the body. So the middle of the body at the tailbone spreading to each side, releasing. And then again the back thighs, spreading the back thighs away from that midline. So continuously releasing. Knowing that it's natural that the places will tend to tense again. So it's continuously going back and releasing. And then with all that releasing, at some point you might be ready to try to lengthen a little bit more. Lengthening the rib cage up off the pelvis. Or another way of saying it is away from the pelvis. So you can use your arms, if you're ready, and lift up, lifting those ribs off or away from that low pelvis. And then releasing again. Notice where you're holding tension. The movement of those back legs that we talk about, the movement happens and then you let go. The floor is supporting the action that you've done. So the ankle is splaying to the side. Once you do it, then the blanket supports that and you can let go of those muscles. Same with the back thighs. Once you have done the action of the back thighs going from the midline out or spreading, then you can let go of that muscle, the muscles involved. And then finding the tailbone or the midline, the end of the spine. Thinking of the muscles on each side of that tailbone and spreading, releasing, letting go. And the low back, the spine as the midline, and then letting go of the muscles, releasing to each side. If you are holding your opposite elbow, switch the clasp. So today we're timing the poses for 7 minutes each. So we're going to do this prone shavasana, 7 minutes. And then our next pose has 2 sides to it, and we'll do 7 on each side there. So after you do this pose with me a few times with the video, you will eventually no longer need the video, and you will just be able to do these on your own in your own time. So then what I do is I just set up a timer. So if you only have time for 3 minutes of each, then you can just set up a timer and do that. The way that I did it was I would just leave my props out in one place in my home when my back was needing this. And then each time I would try to do it 3 or 4 times a day, this little sequence. So I'd see the props, I would go do the poses, and then I would do other things and come back. So just providing relief throughout the day. But it is not only relief, you're actually just beginning to retrain what your hips and thighs and ankles are doing. So you're retraining your alignment. And when you get to the point where you're not in pain anymore, as you begin to heal, then we can do progressively more poses to continue the healing, but also begin to strengthen and continue to work on the alignment and the body intelligence that will eventually or continuously prevent injury. So now to come out of this pose, you'll reach one arm up and over your head, and then you'll use the muscles of your arms to turn you to the side, not the muscles in your low back. So when I turn to the side, I've got one arm long, and then when I turn to the side, I'm using the muscles of my arms. And then just roll to the side, knees to come together for comfort, and then you can sit up. So the next pose is another prone pose, and it's supported Parshva Akanchasana. So Parshva meaning on the side, and Akanchasana is a contraction of the side abdomen. Okay, so we won't be contracting so much today as releasing, but that is the shape that we're taking. So you'll keep this blanket rolled here for your ankles, and you'll keep a blanket for your head and arms at the top. And then for the middle part of the pose, you'll take the bolster or the couch cushion, and you'll take a blanket or towel and put that up on top. So you'll roll that blanket on top. So this blanket rolled is the same as the one for your ankle and on top of your support. So if you were using the couch cushion, it would be like this. It would just be at the edge of the couch cushion in the same way that we were using the edge of the bolster. Okay. So we have the blanket on top of the bolster. So first watch. This will be in the same orientation as we were in the last pose, lying on our front body, but we'll have one leg out to the side. So the bolster will start out on your right side. Okay, so just watch first. I have my ankles on the blanket, and then the bolster being on the right side, and then I'll lie down on my side first. And then the top of the bolster is about at my navel, and then the bottom of the bolster comes in toward that leg. So it's a bit out of an angle. And then I take my right leg and hook it up over the bolster, over the blanket. So the blanket is high up on the inner thigh and almost in contact with the pelvis, actually. It is in contact with the pelvis. So it's high up on the inner thigh. And then the leg is not going over the bolster, but the foot is hooking on this side of the blanket. So the same side of the blanket as your back leg. And then from here, I rotate my torso down a bit, take the left pelvis away from the right pelvis, and then set my ribs down. And then this blanket again is for the head support. And then the arms will lengthen up over the head. And then I'll talk you through the muscle work once you're there. So let's go through this again together. So you'll start out with the bolster, with the blanket on top of the bolster or the couch cushion, your ankles on the blanket, and then lie down on your side, and your right leg will go up and over the bolster. So lift that leg, that knee right up over the bolster, the blanket high up on the inner thigh, the foot hooked onto the bolster or the edge of the blanket, and then turn the torso away, or your front body toward the floor as you take the left hip away from the right hip, and then rest down. So it's a twist, and I'm going to set the timer for our 7 minutes. And then I lengthen the torso forward, lengthen the sternum forward, and then start to let go. So you want the ankle on the blanket back there. So feeling that support of the blanket under that space high up on your inner thigh, soften that inner thigh. And then the left hip is going away from the right, but the leg, the straight leg, the left leg, is the same shape that we took in the prone shavasana. So the front thigh is actually going toward the midline, the back thigh is going away. So again, finding that space in the low back, spreading from the spine out, back thigh of the straight leg moving from the inside out, especially where the hamstring meets the buttocks. On that left leg still, that straight leg, your outer knee goes toward the floor, your outer ankle toward that blanket. Lengthening the ribs away from the pelvis and letting go. Soften the face, soften the muscles around the eyes, soften the jaw. If your arms are lengthened up over your head, clasping the opposite elbows, sometimes the arms in this pose, when we're in it for a bit, can get tiring, or the neck tiring. You can get more support for yourself with blankets around the outer edges and having your arms out to the side. You could roll a blanket in here for more support. So spreading the space from the tailbone, the muscles around the tailbone, or the sacrum, spread wide and let go. So again, as in the last pose, we're not working muscles here. We're getting our body into the alignment that we want and allow the floor to support the body so we can release. So this pose ends up being a bit of a twist because the navel and sternum are twisting away from the bent leg, even though they're supported on the floor. If your arms are up over your head, you can switch the clasp of your arms. If your neck is getting tired, you can try to support yourself in different ways. You could rest your head sideways for a little bit, but you've got to make sure that you are resting your head equally on both sides. So if you have it for 1 minute on one side, try to rest it 1 minute on the other side, which makes the forehead support easier because we don't have to keep track of how long. But sometimes the back of the neck can get tired in the pose, so you can support however you wish. Keeping the torso lengthening. And that low back spreading. The straight leg, the left leg in this case, the back thigh spreads from the inside out. Releasing. Oftentimes, once we feel that we've released, after a little time goes by, we find that we can actually release some more. And then to come out, reach that top arm up, roll to the side, knees together, push yourself up, and then we'll go to the other side. So you might need to re-roll your blanket. And so now the setup will be on the left side. So I start out with my ankles on the blankets to make sure that the measurement is right. And then I lie down on my right side this time and pull the bolster in at about navel level. And then bring that left leg up and over the bolster. Move, setting it up so the blanket is high up on that inner thigh. And again, just a reminder, the foot doesn't go over the bolster, but hooks on the back of that blanket. And then I might take my right pelvis or right hip bone away from the setup, and then roll to the outer edge of the right ankle, and the outer knee is going toward the floor. And then lengthening the pelvis, lengthening the ribs up off the pelvis, and then supporting the head. So beginning to release, gradually releasing the muscles in the low back, spreading from the spine out. The back thigh spreading from the inside out. The outer knee going toward the floor, the outer ankle toward the blanket. And then once you get those things into place, then begin to let go. Hold on to no more muscles. Soften the muscles on your face and neck and throat and jaw. Spread the upper back. And then again, spreading that low back from the middle to the edges. From the sacrum or the tailbone, the muscles on each side, letting go and releasing out to the side. And oftentimes while we're in the pose, we have to readjust the bolster or the blanket. Just keep getting it back to where you need it. And remember, you can figure out some extra support for this, your front body. So you can roll a blanket underneath your shoulders here, so you can have your arms out to the side on top of blankets. You can put a pillow under there, just making sure that the pillow isn't too high, but that we have support for the neck and shoulders as well. Letting go and releasing from the spine out. The back thighs out, or the back thigh of the right leg out. The right leg in this case is the straight leg. Just letting it go. Take care of your neck in the pose, whatever you need. If you need to turn to the side for a little bit, you can do that. If you need to bring a shoulder down or an arm down, you can do that. It's just taking care of yourself. Just remembering to try to balance out if you go to one side for a bit. Try to balance out the other side. And so one key factor in these poses is spreading and lengthening. So if it works for your body, you can lift up a little bit, lengthen the ribs away from the pelvis, making more space in that low back, more space in the abdomen. Spreading. We have about 2 minutes left on this side. And if these just prove to be way too long for you, we have about a minute left or so, then of course you can come out a little bit early, and then eventually you'll be doing these on your own and you won't need the video anymore. And you can tailor the timing to best meet your needs, either with your body, or if you only have 15 minutes, then you'd only do 5 minutes of the prone shavasana and then 5 minutes on each side of the second pose. Okay, and then to come out, I roll to my side, move the bolster out of the way, and then push up into a seated position. Namaste.